Ben,
Jacob,
Ben,
how are you doing?
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch
Kind of
Hashem.
tired. Uh, we did the introduction last week, right?
We did. I think we were. We didn't start. I'm sure we didn't. I don't think we started.
I don't think we started at chapter 1, no.
But we're going into it.
We're going into it, the deep, heavy, heavy esoteric stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Good
You
luck.
think we prepared for it or?
No, not at all. But what can we do? This is where we are.
Mm-hmm.
We have zero choice on the matter.
We have to.
We have to. It's all you.
It's all me.
It's all you.
Okay. Let's do it. פרק א'. להבין מעט מזער מה שכתוב בזוהר. תשמע ישראל כולי. הוא ייחודה עילאה. וברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. הוא ייחודה תתאה. Let us understand, at least in a small measure, the statement of Zohar that Shema Israel is Yehuda Elah, higher level unity, and Baruch Shem Kvod Malchuto Leolam Vaed is Yehud Teta, lower level of unity. For Ve'ad equals Echad.
Va'ed.
Vaed, okay, I didn't know. Vaed equals Echad through the substitution, and thereby the descent of letters as stated in the Zohar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't ask me how.
So thus this object of Shari Chud V'Emunah, which is the book that we're reading.
Here, let's just figure this out. Hebrew grammar classifies the letters of the alphabet according to their syntactic functions, their respective sources in the organ of speech, and so on. With each group, the letters are interchangeable. The letter Aleph and Vav both belong to the group of connective letters, Otiot, and may thus be interchanged.
Right.
The letter Het and Ayin fall into the category of guttural letters, Otiot Groniot, and likewise may be interchanged. Hence, Echad is the equivalent of Va'ed.
Okay.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Imagine that. Okay, so just a note here. The object of Shari Chud V'Emunah, which is the book that we're reading, right?
Yeah.
Will be to understand how it is possible to speak of two different levels of divine unity. Upper and lower. Okay.
I mean, as we started last week talking about, he says, Chanoch nar ledarko v'gam yazkin lo yazav mimenu. I think that's the words.
Right.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Teach a child according to his ways, and even when he gets older, he will not stray from it. Well, if you're at the very beginning teaching him the correct truth of the matter, then what's this whole concept of according to his ways? You're teaching him the truth. And if you're teaching him according to his ways, meaning that it's what's particular to him, then what's this idea that when he gets older, he's not going to stray away from it? And the fact is that these two very disparate ways of looking at things, like Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, when God in Genesis, I believe it is in Genesis, says, which is the first book of the Bible, says, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, I am becoming that which I am becoming, in the incomplete, right? And then at the end of the Bible, in Malachi, last book of the Bible, he says, Ani Havaya lo shaniti, I am the Lord, I have not changed, right?
Right.
So this is a type of contradiction, you might say, oxymoronic contradiction, which goes throughout our understanding of God. You can say, like PBK would say, God 1 and God 2.
Yeah.
We can say Havaya and Elohim, or we can say Makif and Sovev, right? This distinction is ultimately what comes down to Anochi Hashem Elokechem, right? I am the Lord your God, right? Is
Right.
that in Judaism these things get crushed into each other, crashed into each other in a incomprehensible and marvelous way, which allows us to understand a little bit better than anything that any particular one statement can give, right?
So yeah.
So there's a truth to the one statement, there's a different truth to the other statement. These two truths appear to be contradictory, but when you hold both of them in your mind at the same time, you're actually able to understand something that goes to be that is true beyond the both of them.
Yeah. So let me take it to another place.
Yeah.
And from what I remember, the other insight
Mm,
from last week was Chanoch anar lefi darko, that you teach a child according to his way, so that when he gets old, or when he gets old, he doesn't lose it.
right.
It's also that, like the Alter Rebbe posed a question, like, don't you want him to go beyond that understanding? And then he says something to the effect of, you want him to have a basic understanding,
Mm,
that he never loses even the basic understanding of something. So when he falls, he still has this childlike understanding that he can bootstrap himself from. So that's the other insight. Now, an anecdote that,
mm,
that connects here
mm,
is that I had a conversation with a friend,
mm.
and he's like um, more secular, right?
How dare you speak to secular Jews?
Right. Okay. Um, he's my best friend, really. But so, um,
You're friends with a secular Jew. God have mercy on our
who would
souls.
believe? Who would believe?
Yeah.
So, we were talking about how in the Shema it says there's the tagmul ve'onish, is there's a reward and punishment, and he was saying how, like, this seems to be like the most, this is, we're talking it through the Derech Hashem with the Ramchal, and the Ramchal says this is very important, and in Judaism this is very important, and he says, how is this thing that you read every day and it's so important, and it's talking to me like I'm a child, like, oh, if I do something bad, there won't be any rain. Great. Like, no, I I need, like, I need more than that, and I understand him. I very much relate to him, but it seems to me like it's an example of what's happening here, where it could be these two levels where you have some kind of a childlike understanding and you have a upper understanding, right? So the Ramchal says the right or the higher level of fear is not fearing the punishment, it's fearing the awesomeness of God. And the right thing of love is not loving the reward, it's loving God. But both levels exist, and both levels are valid.
So was that deliberately a lob up in the air so I can smash it in, or did you unwittingly lob it up in the air so I can smash it in?
Let's see what you're smashing, and then I'll let you know if it was deliberate.
How familiar are you with the commentary of Maimonides on Perek Chalek, chapter 10 of Sanhedrin?
I don't think I don't think I'm familiar, at least not by reference.
Aha. So apparently we're going to have to do some remedial education.
It's okay, because I think this is important. I mean, this is
This is very important. This is the most important. So We did this at the Hebrew Bible study on Saturday night as well, which you obviously didn't listen to, but that's fine. And you probably didn't see how I several times on the Discord have posted this, that everybody should read it, but the fact is very few people do read it. So
What is it?
what is it? Let me
Like
explain it. Let me, in fact, I think I'm going to have to pull it up so that we can read it on the inside.
Okay.
This is worth our time. Okay, so if you go to Safaria and you go to the Mishnah and you go to, and since this is, and you go down to Sanhedrin, you go to Sanhedrin chapter 10. This is Perek Chelek, right? Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek olam haba. And for anybody who needs remedial education and translations, I highly recommend you go either read the English here or read or go listen to the Hebrew Bible study, because we're going to go quick, about as quick as you can go on this stuff. But if you go, so Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek olam haba. שנאמר ועמך כולם צדיקים לעולם ירשו ארץ נצר מתי מעשה ידי להתפאר ואלו שאין להם חלק לעולם הבא. So this is the basic place in the Talmud and the Mishnah where we talk about what are the fundamentals of Judaism. And if you click on the commentaries here, you will get to Maimonides and his commentary on the Mishnah, which he wrote when he was 25 years old. Yes, feel bad about yourself. He wrote a whole commentary on the Mishnah at the age of 25. And we actually have his original, for 3 out of the 6, I believe, orders. We actually have his own handwritten manuscript of this commentary.
Nice.
His family passed it down. And so when he wrote his commentary on the entirety of the Mishnah, on this particular on this particular chapter, which is known as Perek Chelek, he wrote yes, Donnie, it's very, very, very important. He wrote, "Ra'iti ladaber bekan beikarim rabim be'emunah gedolim v'nechpadim ad me'od." Right? So, and this is actually where we get 13 ikarim of the Rambam.
Mm-hmm.
So the 13 fundamentals of Jewish faith, to the point that there is a creed within Judaism, to the point that there is something definitional about what we must believe in Judaism, it comes from this explanation here from the Rambam. And many people have a custom to every day recite the 13 Ikarim, which comes from this here. Ani ma'amin be'emunah shleimah, right? And famously, there's the song Ani ma'amin be'emunah shleimah be'viat HaMashiach, comes from that 13 Ikarim. Or a lot of people know Yigdal, right? It's also based on the 13 Ikarim. So these are the fundamentals, the basics of Jewish faith.
Mm-hmm.
And since it's pretty short and we haven't gone through it before, I think maybe we should, in fact, go through it. Not necessarily to translate it, but let's just read the Hebrew. Okay. Ra'iti ledaber b'kan beikarim rabim be'emunah gedolim ונכבדים עד מאוד, הווה ידוע כי בעלי התורה נחלקו דעותיהם בטובה שתגיע לאדם בעשיית המצוות שציוונו בהם השם יתברך על ידי משה רבינו עליו השלום, וראה שתמצא אותו כשיעבור עליהם מחלוקות רבות מאוד לפי השתנות שכליהם, ונשתבשו בהם הסברות שיבוש גדול עד שכמעט לא תמצא בשום פנים אדם שנתבאר לו דבר זה, ולא תמצא בו דבר מוחלט לשום אדם אלא בשיבוש גדול. Right? So when you're talking about the very important things that God commanded Moshe Rabbeinu, you're going to find people are very, very confused and make all kinds of mistakes about them, right? Kat Rishona Sovrim ki hatova hu gan Eden וכי הוא מקום שאוכלים ושותים בו מבלי עמל הגוף ובלי יגיעה כשיש לשם בתים מאבנים טובות ומיטות מוצאות במשי ונהרות מושקות יין ושמנים מבוסמים והרבה דברים מזה המין. There are people who think that the good thing is Garden of Eden and there's all kinds of miraculous great things there.
Harps and stuff.
Yeah. וכי הרעה הוא גיהינום והוא מקום בוער באש שבו שורפים גביות ומצטערים שם בני אדם במיני הצער והעינוי יאריך סיפורם, והכת הזאת הביא ראיה על סברתם מדברי רבותינו ז"ל וממקראות הכתוב שפשטה נאות למה שהם אומרים לכולו או לרובו. Got it? וכת שנייה שתסבור ותחשוב שהטובה המיוחלת הוא ימות המשיח מהרה יגלה וכי באותו הזמן יהיו בני אדם כולם מלאכים, כולם חיים וקיימים לעד ויגביהו במקומותם וירבו ויעצמו עד שישובו כל העולם לעד לעולם, ואותו המשיח כפי מחשבתם יחיה לעד בעזרת השם יתברך. וכי באותם הימים תוציא הארץ בגדים ארוגים ולחם אפוי ודברים הרבה כאלה שהם מן הנמנעות. וכי הרעה היא שלא יהיה האדם מצוי באותן הימים ולא יזכה לראותו ומביאים ראיה בדבריהם בדברים רבים מצויים לחכמים וכתובים במקרא יסכים פשטם למה שהם אומרים או לקצתו. Right? There's a lot of chezis in the world. השם ירחם עלינו. וכת השלישית תחשוב כי הטובה שנקווה תחיית המתים והוא שיחיה האדם אחר מותו ויחזור עם קרוביו ובני ביתו ויאכל וישתה ולא ימות עוד, וכי הרעה היא שלא יחיה אחר מותו עם אותם שיחיו, ומביאים ראיה על זה במאמרם רבים המצויים בדברים החכמים ופוסקים מן המקרא שפשוטם יוראה על מה שהם אומרים או על קצתו. Or they're Mormons and people who like the Christian Gnostic ideas, right? וכת הרביעית תחשוב כי הכוונה שתגיע לנו בעשיית המצוות היא מנוחת הגוף והשגת התאוות העולמיות בעולם הזה, כמו שומן הארץ ונכסים רבים ורוב הבנים ובריאות הגוף והשלום הביטחון והיות המלך מישראל והיותו שולטים על מי שהצר לנו והרעה שתשיגנו כשנחפור על התורה, הפך העניינים האלה כמו מה שאנחנו פה היום בזמן הגלות, ויביאו ראיה כפי סברתם מכל המקראות שבתורה והכללות וזולתם ומכל אותם סיפורם הכתובים במקרא. Or they believe in prosperity gospel. השם ירחם עליהם. וכת החמישי, והם הרבה מחברים העניינים האלה כולם ואומרים כי התוחלת הוא שיבוא המשיח ויחיה המתים ויכנסו לגן עדן ויאכלו שם וישתו ויהיו בריאים כל ימות העולם.
The synthesizers.
Yeah. אבל זו הנקודה הנפלאת, what's that ראשי תיבות? רוצה לומר העולם הבא? רוצה לומר, העולם הבא, מעט תמצא בשום פנים שיעלה על ליבו, הוא שיחשוב או שיקח זה העיקר, או שיאמר זה השם על איזה דבר, הוא נופל אם הוא תכלית הטובה או אחת מן הדעות הקודמות, הוא התכלית, או שיבדיל בין התכלית ובין הסיבה המביאה אל התכלית. אבל מה ששואלים העם כולו ההמון והמבינים, איך יקומו המתים ערומים או לבושים, ואם יעמדו באותן תכריכים עצמן שנקברו בהם ברקמתם ובציורם ויופי תפירתם, או במלבוש שיחסה גופם בלבד, כשיבוא המשיח אם יהיו שם עשיר והדל, או אם יהיו בימיו חזק וחלש, והרבה שאלות כאלו בכל עת. Right? You get a lot of people who, because of all these things, they start asking all kinds of stupid questions, like, am I going to be a 20-year-old when I get resurrected, or am I going to be a 60-year-old when I get resurrected? Right? What if somebody dies when they're 5 years old? Are they going to be 20 years old when they? All kinds of questions like this.
Right.
ואתה המעיין בספר זה תבין זה המשל שאני ממשיל לך. ואז תכין ליבך ותשמע דברי בכל זה. So he's going to give us a משל. שים בדעתך כי נער קטן הביאוהו אצל המלמד ללמדו תורה, וזהו הטוב הגדול לו לעניין מה שישיג מן השלמות, אלא שהוא למיעוט שנה וחולשת שכלו, אינו מבין מעלת אותו הטוב ולא מה שיגיעו בשבילו מן השלמות, ולפיכך בהכרח יצטרך המלמד שהוא יותר שלם ממנו, שיזרז אותו על הלימוד בדברים שהם אהובים אצלו לקטנות שניו, ויאמר לו קרא ואתן לך אגוזים או תענין ואתן לך מעט דבש, ובזה הוא קורא ומשתדל לא לעצם הקריאה לפי שאינו יודע מעלתה, אלא כדי שיתנו לו אותו המאכל, ואכילת אותן המגדים אצלו יקר בעיניו מן הקריאה, וטוב הרבה בלא ספק, ולפיכך חושב הלימוד עמל ויגיע, והוא עמל בו כדי שיגיע לו באותו עמל התכלית האהוב אצלו, והוא אגוז אחד, או חתיכת דבש, וכשיגדיל, ויחזיק שכלו, ויקל בעיניו אותו הדבר שהיה אצלו נכבד מלפנים, וחזר לאהוב זולתו, יזרזו אותו, ויראו תאוותו באותו הדבר החמוד לו, ויאמר לו מלמדו, קרא ואקח לך מנעלים יפים, או בגדים חמודים, right? I'll buy you some Nikes, ובזה ישתדל לקרוא לא לעצם הלימוד, אלא לאותו המלבוש והבגד ההוא נכבד בעיניו מן התורה, והוא אצלו תכלית קריאתו, וכאשר יהיה שלם בשכלו יותר ויתבזה בעיניו זה הדבר גם כן, ישים נפשו למה שהוא גדול מזה, ואז יאמר לו רבו למוד פרשה זו או פרק זה, ואתן לך דינר אחד או 2 דינרים, וכך הוא קורא ומשתדל לקח אותו הממון, ואותו הממון אצלו נכבד מן הלימוד, לפי שתכלית הלימוד אצלו הוא שיקח הזהב שהבטיחוהו בו, וכשיהיה דעתו גדולה ונקלט בעיניו זה השיעור, וידע שזה דבר נקל, יתאווה למה שהוא נכבד מזה, ויאמר לו רבו למוד כדי שתהיה ראש ודיין, ויכבדוך בני אדם ויקומו מפניך כגון פלוני ופלוני. הוא קורא ומשתדל כדי להשיג מעלה זו, ותהיה התכלית אצל הכבוד, ושיכבדו אותו בני אדם, וינשאוהו וישבחו אותו, וכל זה מגונה, ואמנם יצטרך למיעוט שכל אדם, שישים תכלית החוכמה דבר אחר, זולתי החוכמה, ויאמר לאיזה דבר נלמד, אלא כדי שנשיג בו זה הכבוד וזה הוללות על האמת, ועל לימוד כזה אומרים חכמים שלא לשמה, כלומר שיעשה המצוות וילמוד וישתדל בתורה, לא לאותו הדבר בעצמו, אלא בשביל דבר אחר, והזהירו חכמים על זה, ואמרו בפרקי אבות, פרק ד' משנה ה', לא תעשה עטרה להגדל בהם, ולא קרדום לחפור בה, והם רומזים למה שביארתי לך שאין לשום תכלית החוכמה, לא לקבל כבוד מבני אדם, ולא להרוויח ממון, ולא יתעסק בתורת השם יתברך להתפרנס בה, ולא תהיה אצלו תכלית לימוד החוכמה, אלא לדעת אותה בלבד. וכן אין תכלית האמת, אלא שידע שהוא אמת, והתורה אמת, ותכלית ידיעה לעשותה, ואסור לאדם השלם שיאמר כשיעשה אלה המצוות, שהם המידות הטובות, ואתרחק מן העבירות, שהם המידות הרעות, שציווה השם יתברך, שלא לעשותה מה הוא הגמול, שאקבל על זה לפי מה, שזה כמו מה שיאמר הנער, כשאני קורא זה, מה יתנו לי? והם אומרים לו דבר פלוני, לפי כשאנו רואים מיעוט שכלו, שאינו מבין זה השיעור, והוא מבקש לתכלית אחר, אין אנו משיבים לו כשכלתו, כמו שנאמר ענה כסיל כעולתו. וכבר הזהירו החכמים על זה גם כן, כלומר שלא ישים האדם תכלית עבודת השם יתברך ועשיית המצווה בשביל דבר מן הדברים, והוא מה שאמר האיש השלם המשיג אמיתת העניינים, אנטיגנוס איש סוחו אמר אל תהיו כעבדים המשמשים את הרב על מנת לקבל פרס, אלא הבו כעבדים המשמשים את הרב על מנת שלא לקבל פרס. ואמנם רוצה לומר בזה שיאמין באמת לעצם האמת, וזהו העניין שקוראים אותו עובד מאהבה. ואמרו ז"ל, עבודה זרה י"ט עמוד א', במצוותיו חפץ מאוד. אמר רב אליעזר במצוותיו ולא בשכר מצוותיו. וכמה היא מבוארת והיא ראיה ברורה על מה שקדם לנו מן המאמר. וגדול מזה מה שאמרו בספרי, שמא תאמר הריני לומד תורה בשביל שאהיה עשיר, בשביל שאקרא רב, בשביל שאקבל שכר לעולם הבא. תלמוד לומר לאהבה את השם אלוקיך, כל שאתם עושים לא תעשו אלא מאהבה. Got it? This is fundamental to everything Judaism is. This is where we get the 13 ikarim of our emunah.
So so let me tell you what I heard. I'll put myself in here, and you can correct me. You can tell me what a bad student I am. But right, so
full circle, Yechezi says.
Full circle. I mean, this is hard to articulate. This is also this feels to me like this is why it's the oral. This is why it's oral. This is why, because it's dynamic. But okay, so here's the thing. The thing is, what he says is that you need to speak to people at their level.
Yeah.
So it's almost like it's well, you just call them the fundamentals, but so it's almost like he's talking about what you say to the child is more of a means to an end than the end, right?
Okay, so when it comes down to it, the fact is that even though this is his commentary to the Mishnah, where we get the Shlosha Karim, there's a reason why this mashal is not something we plaster on every wall of every kindergarten.
Right.
Right? Because if you tell the kid, you know what, I'll give you some honey if you learn how to read Aleph Bet, right? But really, what you're getting is a lot better than the honey. He's not going to understand, and he's not going to get it. And unfortunately, many people, when they read this, they think that you're making some sort of you're saying, so what the Torah is really saying, it's lying to us, right? The teacher's not going to give you the piece of walnuts, right? The egos, or the fig, or the piece of honey, or the dinar, or the kavod, or all of the other things. And the fact is, no, it's not true. You are going to get the honey, and you are going to get the Nikes, and you are going to get kavod, and you are going to get everything that comes with the Torah. The problem is that until you have attained a certain crappy candy, as he says, until you've attained a certain maturity, for you, look, the candy bar, look, I remember when I was in yeshiva, my uncle, who for 40 years had been a driver for Elite, used to come and leave, and this was after college, so this wasn't when I was a little kid, used to come and leave a package of candies on my pillow in yeshiva, right?
Yep.
I would get home, and there's all of these elite candies, right? I love the little sesame seed. You know the little sesame seed uh, and honey. What you call it? They make.
Sesame seed and honey.
Yeah. Oh, come on.
You mean like the nuts?
No, it's like it's made. It's like little cakes with sesame seeds stuck together with honey.
I'm not sure. Chezi knows it.
I'm sure Chessie knows it. I'm surprised you don't know it. But anyway, especially, I mean, if you're Sephardi,
Yeah, I was going to say this sounds like a Mizrahi candy, but
it is, especially for Pesach, because during it's kosher Pesach for Sephardim.
maybe I know it. I need to see it. I probably know it, but okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
So like that stuff's beautiful and it's great, and you're going to get that as well. But the fact is, what you're getting is so much beyond and better than that.
right. So the person reading this, right, the adult reading this, and I'm not
Yeah.
saying whether they're on a high level or on a lower level, because it's not about the age, right? When we say
Yeah.
a child, they read this and they think, okay, propositionally, I understand. Oh, okay, so these are all the smaller levels, and like I can just get to the higher level, and now I'm on the higher level because I understand the logic of the mashal.
Okay.
But the problem is that it's not understanding the logic of the parable of the mashal doesn't mean that you are at the highest level that it describes, because the highest level is more right. I'm talking in our language. It's more experiential, and it is a belief. It's an axiom that you take on. Like it has at least, I mean, at least momentarily, at least temporarily, to
So
experiment to see. Right? I mean,
when we started, you told me your friend is reading the Shema, and
right?
it says, right, um, achalta, what does it say?
Savata.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have food, and you're going to have all the. Billy gets a Lego set if he reads his halacha books, but I still express to them the importance of developing their relationship with Hashem and their characters.
Right.
Um,
Staggered education learning.
Sesame brittle. Sesame brittle, I guess, is how you call it in English.
Why?
But so your friends, like, what you're talking to me as if I'm a kid, and the fact is, if you understand, right, atzar hashamayim, right, what does it mean, atzar hashamayim, right? Chara af Hashem lo aleinu, chara af Hashem bachem. God's anger will be aroused against you, and the heavens will stop. Atzar hashamayim.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what does that mean? Does it mean that is it at all time the man in the sky, right? Does it mean that at all time not having rain? Sometimes it rains on your parade, and sometimes you don't want it to rain, and sometimes you want it to rain. So when it says Va'atzar et hashamayim, does that mean if I don't want it to rain, I should be doing a few more sins and it'll stop raining? Right? That's a belief in God in a very mechanical and childish way, which, I guess there are children who understand it that way. But like, let's go back to Jordan Peterson, right? So Jordan Peterson says God will be angry with you.
Mm-hmm.
And he explains in his Jordan Peterson analogy way how the anger of God actually makes sense to an adult.
Right.
Right? So a lot of Christians become, especially fundamentalist Christians, become really excited because suddenly these things that have stopped having any meaning to them because they're too their mind is too developed to see things so simply and in such a fundamentalist way.
Mm-hmm.
They become very um, they become very excited by it.
Right, right. Yeah.
But part of the problem then becomes that, first of all, they completely forget that, okay, there are certain things little children can't understand. And you have to go down that line, right? And explain things simply before you can get to this higher level.
Right.
And what is at the higher level doesn't negate the lower level. This is why, especially whenever we talk about Kabbalistic stuff, people seem to want to hear something in the Kabbalah, which means that they no longer have to believe Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it doesn't work that way. This is a continuation, right? You're never going to learn something in calculus that's going to tell you that 2 plus 2 no longer equals 4. Sorry, right? But there are people who are convinced 2 plus 2 equals 5, and I can, like, if I know enough math, I can make 2 plus 2 equals 5. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's not true. 2 plus 2 is 4, right? Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. And God gives you all good things, and God makes all evil things happen, right? And that is the entirety of, I mean, what we're talking about. Shar yichud ve'emuna, right? Chanuch lanar al pi darko v'gam ki yaskin, right? Lo yazov or lo tasor. I'm very bad at memorizing my verses. Right? So, yes, in some sense, it's weird and funny to tell a child. Okay, I'll tell this other story. So, I work in health insurance, and I had a woman at age 65 come to sign up for Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking to her in Spanish.
Right.
And she worked in a factory where her job was to compare. She did quality assurance. She compared whether this looked like the diagram, right? That's all she did. She did, and she worked full time, and she had kids and stuff, right? And she came to me and she said that she finally got to retire, and she was taking her pension, and her kids were grown up. So she got to go learn how to read. Right? She had come to the United States as a teenager. She had gotten married. She had had kids. She was working in a factory. At age 65, she had started reading. And she told me how much she loved reading.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm thinking, oh my God. Right? At age 5, I started reading. I'm trying to imagine what it would be like at age 65 to start reading. And she was telling me how she loved reading, and she was reading every book she could get her hands on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, imagine telling a 5-year-old kid, right? You're going to be so happy you learned how to read, if they don't want to read, right? And some kids do, but many kids don't, and you have to force it on them, right? And you have to sweeten the pot in some way or other. Now, are you lying to that child when you say, I'll give you a piece of honey I'm giving you a Lego set if you read the halacha books? You're not lying to them. You're speaking beyond their capacity to understand in a way that they literally understand something very different than what you wish they could understand.
Right.
But it's all the same thing. And that's exactly what this entire thing is telling you, is ultimately you're saying things from you're saying true things in ways that people may misunderstand you, but they're actually understanding you better than if you told them what they think is true.
Right.
Chezi is loving this. Pirkei Avot 5:21. You'll get there soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because one of the questions, and again, I mean, I think we you addressed it here. We addressed it here. Like, but the question there was, the question with my friend was, why why does it start with this language that is so basic? Why is the thing that I need to read so is talking to me about the level of the, let me just give you a candy. Why can't you just unfold it to me? Unfold, like, why can't you just give me the full blown explanation? And yeah, and I mean, I get it. It's like the right. I mean, it's like the Blinkist, right? It's like read a book in 15
Yeah.
minutes. It's like get an AI to do your thing in like in a 12 seconds, and you'll be like it's the quick hit kind of thing.
Um, so, during the Middle Ages, Christians had this idea that Muslims were always drunk. Do you
No,
know why?
no. I mean, they're not supposed to drink alcohol, right?
They're not supposed to drink alcohol at all.
So the opposite is true. Why?
Because they read all the poetry which talked about the greatness of wine. So if you read Rumi and various uh, Persian and Arab poets, they're constantly talking about the love of women and wine, right?
Interesting.
But it's all poetic language. and so these things got translated to various European languages, and the Europeans are reading this and they're like, "Oh my God, these people must be drunk all the time." They're like constantly talking about how great wine is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Right?
Right. This is a historical account. This is not like
It can't possibly be that they're talking about like being intoxicated in God, which is obviously what all these poems are about,
mm-hmm.
right? And so, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sandy says, I learn more about Christian beliefs and history here in Jacob's stories than I did in church. Chazi says, you can phase shift faster these days, and at times you can do both. For example, study Pirkei Avot and Tanya. Sorry, Chazi, but your incredible and intense belief in how much further we are is is just categorically mistaken where we are in our humanity. But it's all good. Um,
It's hard.
it's hard. This is
And
true.
it takes time. It takes time. It really takes time. It's very interesting. And you get busy. Life is busy. Like you do different things. So
Shadow doesn't have any of these problems.
right. She's either lucky or unlucky. Who knows? I mean, according to my Birkot HaShachar, she's unlucky.
She is unlucky, poor thing.
But yeah.
Poor thing, she was born a black cat. How much more unlucky than that can you get? Um, I mean, we can finish this. It might not be bad to finish this. I tried to read it despite my really bad uh, modern Hebrew because I wasn't sure if you would be able to. Can you read this yourself without the nekudot?
Yeah,
You want to give it a try?
yeah. I mean, we're not. Yeah, we're just going through this quickly.
Yeah, we're not translating. Just read it. Hopefully, you'll understand it. I
Yeah,
already
I'll
I've
let you
read
know if
this
I don't
many times.
understand, but yeah, so yeah,
Yeah.
I'll just go for it. הנה יתבאר לך זה העניין, ונתבאר שהוא כוונת התורה,
Mhm.
ויסוד כוונת חכמים עליהם השלום, ואין מעלים עיניו מזה אלא אוויל משתגע, שקלקלוהו ושיבשוהו המחשבות, השכלות והרעיונות הגרועים. וזוהי מעלת אברהם אבינו עליו השלום, בסוטה. שהוא היה עובד מאהבה, ולעומת הדרך הזה ראוי להיות ההתעוררות. ולפי שידעו חכמים, זיכרונם לברכה, שזה עניין קשה עד מאוד, ואין כל אדם משיג אותו, ואם משיגו, אינו מסכים בו בתחילת העניין, ואינו סובר שתהיה אמונה ברורה, לפי שהאדם אינו עושה מעשה, אלא כדי שתגיע לו ממנו תועלת, או שתסור ממנו פסידה. That word, I don't know what it means.
Have said.
הפסד, makes sense. ואם אינו כן, יהיה אצלו אותה מעשה הבל וריק, איך יאמר לבעל תורה, עשה אלה המעשים ולא תעשה אותם, לא להירא מהעונש, מן היתברך,
Min Hashem yitbarach.
השם יתברך, ולא להנחיל שכר טוב זה דבר קשה עד מאוד, לפי שאין כל בני אדם משיגין האמת, עד שיהיו כמו אברהם אבינו עליו השלום, אוקיי, we'll get there, ולכן התירו להמון כדי שיתיישבו על אמונתם, לעשות המצוות לתקוות שכר, ולהינזר מן העבירות, מיראת עונש, ומזרזים אותם על זה, ומחזקים כוונתם עד שישיג המשיג, וידע האמת, והדרך השלם, מהו כמו שעושים בנער בשעת הלימוד, כמו שהבאתי המשל, והאשימו לאנטיגונוס איש סוחו, ובארו להמון מה שביאר, ואמרו בזה, היזהרו בדבריכם, כמו שנתבאר באבות.
Yeah.
So basically, this is very hard to get to that level, and even when you get there, yeah, what did he say there? It's not clear, yeah. ואין ההמון מפסידים מכל, וכל בעשותם המצוות מיראת העונש, ותקוות השכר, אלא שהם בלתי שלמים, אוקיי, let's do it again. ואין ההמון מפסידים מכל, וכל בעשותם המצוות מיראת העונש ותקוות השכר, אלא שהם בלתי שלמים, ואולם זה לטוב להם עד שיהיה להם כוח, והרגל, והשתדלות בעשיית התורה, מזה יתעוררו לדעת האמת, ויחזרו עובדים מאהבה, וזהו שאמרו זיכרונם לברכה בפסחים, לעולם יעסוק אדם בתורה, ואפילו שלא לשמה, שמתוך שלא לשמה בא לשמה. Yeah. So you can start with doing things even not for the sake of just the love and just the doing it.
Right. So, you start with what you look. The fact is, these are good things to do, and even if you do them for the wrong reasons, it's better than if you don't do them at all. So go ahead, do it for the wrong reasons, and hopefully, from doing it from the wrong reasons, you'll come to understand and do them for the right reasons.
Right. So I imagine this is why I was going through kind of learning about some halachic decisions, or like commentary that halachic decisions that the Rambam brings, and how he talks about outcome versus intention. So and he highly values outcome when it comes to at least certain decisions, maybe most of them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
וממה שאתה צריך לדעת, כי דברי חכמים זיכרונם לברכה נחלקו בם בני אדם לשלושה כתות. הראשונה, והוא רוב מה שראיתי, ואשר ראיתי חבוריו, ומה ששמעתי עליו, הם מאמינים אותם על פשטם, ואין סוברים בהם פירוש נסתר בשום פנים, והנמנעות כולם הם אצלם מחויבות המציאות, ואומנם עושים כן לפי שלא הבינו החוכמה, והם רחוקים מן התבונות, ואין בהם מן השלמות כדי שיתעוררו מעליהם, ולא מצאו מעורר שיעורר אותם, סוברים שלא כיוונו החכמים זיכרונם לברכה בכל דבריהם הישרים והמתוקנים, אלא מה שהבינו לפי דעתם מהם, ושהם על פשוטם, ואף על פי שהנראה מקצת דבריהם יש בהם מן הדיבה והריחוק מן השכל, עד שאילו סופר על פשוטו לעמי הארץ, כל שכן לחכמים היו טמאים, בהתבוננם בהם, והם אומרים, איך ייתכן שיהיה בעולם אדם שיחשוב בזה, או שיאמין שהיא אמונה נכונה, קל וחומר שיטיב בעיניו, וזו הכת עניי הדת, יש להצטער עליהם לזכלותם, לפי שהם מכבדים, מנשאים חכמים כפי דעתם, והם משפילים אותם בתכלית השפלות, והם אינם מבינים זה, וחי השם יתברך, כי הכת הזה מאבדים הדרת תורה, מאפילים זערה, משימים תורת השם בהפך המכוון בה, לפי שהשם יתברך אמר בתורה התמימה, אשר ישמעון את כל החוקים האלה, ואמרו רק אם חכם ונבון הגוי הגדול הזה והכת הזאת מספרים משפטי דברי החכמים, זיכרונם לברכה, מה שכששומעים אותו, שאר האומות, אומרים רק עם שכל, סקל, רק עם שכל.
Yeah. So they read things in a fundamentalist manner.
Right, that's what I thought.
Right? And so they
there's nothing beyond
explain it right. They explain it in such a fundamentalist manner that people who actually understand stuff say, "Oh, this is stupidity." Am sachel v'navel hagoy hakatan hazeh.
Even though he says this is
this is what most people
do. ורוב מה שהם עושים זה הדרשנים, שהם מפרשים ומודיעים להמון העם מה שאינם יודעים, ומי ייתן אחר שלא ידעו ולא הבינו, שיהיו שותקים, כמו שאמר, מי ייתן אחרש תחרישון, ותהי להם לחוכמה, או שיהיו אומרים, אין אנו מבינים כוונת החכמים בזה, המאמר, ולא איך יתפרש, אבל הם מחשבים שהם מבינים אותו, משתדלים להודיעו או לפרש לעם מה שהבינו הם עצמם, כפי דעתם החלושה, לא מה שאמרו חכמים ודורשים בראשי העם, דרשות, ממסכת ברכות, בפרק חלק, וזולתם על פשטם מילה ומילה. So they don't care about the interpretation of the sages, or they
explain things. Look, you go on YouTube and you can listen to plenty of channels where people will explain to you how, actually when it says Moses talked to God face to face, that's Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's like, you fool. Obviously, in the same place where it says it talked to him face to face, it says it didn't, that God, nobody can see God's face. It's in the same place. So it obviously doesn't mean that.
Mm-hmm.
But what am I going to do with somebody who's like, see, that's Jesus?
Or that's, I mean, also from the Jewish perspective, you can misread it, right? So yeah,
and they do, and there's plenty of people in all ways who will read things and talk about, so this is how you know that if you get buried not in Tachrichim, right? I was listening to Rabbi Breitowitz during a Q&A, and people were asking the question that gets asked all the time, which is, So how's resurrection of the dead going to be by the people who were burned in the Shoah?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You fool! Don't worry about it. God, this is what we mean when
Mm-hmm.
we say God is the one who will reward the righteous and punish the wicked. Don't give me your very materialistic understandings of things in a very simplistic manner.
I'm gonna assume that that wasn't a direct quotation of Rabbi Bradwitz.
He didn't call those people fools. No, not. He's much more calm in his speeches than I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. This is the Rambam. By the way, if somebody's confused by the title of the video.
Rambam, Tanya, what's the difference?
Yeah. אוקיי, והכת השנייה, הם רבים גם כן. So this is a lot of people too. והם אותם שראו דברי החכמים, או שמעום, והבינו אותם, כפי פשוטו, וחשבו שלא כיוונו חכמים בו, זולתי מה שמורה עליו, פשט הדבר, והם באים לסכל אותם, ולגנותם מוציאים דיבה על מה שאין בו דיבה, וילעגו על דברי חכמים, ושכלם יותר זך מהם, ושהם עליו השלום, נפתים גרועי השכל, שכלים בכלל המציאות, עד שלא היו משיגים דבר חוכמה בשום פנים,
He's talking about Sam Harris.
ורוב הנכשלים בזה, השיבוש המתייחסים לחוכמת הרפואות, I miss myself, שמתייחסים השיבוש שמתייחסים לחוכמת הרפואים, מעבילים בגזרת הכוכבים, לפי שהם במחשבתם נבונים וחכמים, בעיניהם מחודדים ופילוסופים, וכמה הם רחוקים מן האנושית.
He could have just said Sam Harris.
He could have just said רחוקים מן האנושית. This is like the where are you standing?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
אצל אותם שהם חכמים ופילוסופים על האמת, אבל הם שכלים יותר מן הכת הראשונה. It's harsh. מן הכת הראשונה, והרבה מהם פתיות, והוא כת ארורה, לפי שהם משיבים על אנשים גדולים ונשיאים, אשר נתבררה חוכמתם לחכמים, ואלו הפתאים, אילו היה עמלם בחוכמות, עד שיהיו יודעים איך ראוי לסדר, ולכתוב הדברים בחוכמת האלוהות, והדומה להם מן הדברים אצל ההמון ואצל חכמים, ויבינו החלק המעשי מן הפילוסופיה, אז היו מבינים אם החכמים, זיכרונם לברכה, חכמים, ואם לא, והיה מתבאר להם עניין דבריהם. It's interesting, the final part that he says, יבינו החלק המעשי והפילוסופי.
Right. So this is something that I've noticed. It's the people who are the least practical, who have the easiest time dismissing Geonei Olam and the wisdom of the ages as, oh, I know better.
Interesting. I need to hear your sentence again, but I was thinking about something else that it happened to me twice already. Recently, when I was discussing Judaism, again with secular people that I kind of we're talking about that, and
How dare you talk to these secular people?
Terrible. And there's so many secular people in my life, and I have no idea where they're coming from. And there was an implicit equation of Judaism or Judaism or like the more religious stuff with spirituality. So, and in my mind, like as you dive more into it, or as you actually try to kind of make this more practical for yourself, that's one of the things that you understand. This is not This is exactly right. This is the um, unity from above and unity and below. I mean, this is like the whole synthesis. This is so.
You're very right, and this is the difference between Judaism and Christianity. Because and part of the problem, right? What one thing that I learned was reform and conservative. So it's funny, like there I was talking to somebody about the non-denominational movement. So what's the non-denominational movement in the United States? It's the people who believe in kind of reform and conservative, but they realize that Israeli Masorti, right, which is, okay, what is Yiddishkeit, Shulchan Aruch, Mishnah Brura, Mishnah Torah, right? This is Chochmat Ha'emet. This is actual Judaism. I'm just not that religious, right?
Right, right.
I'm not that observant. That type of Israeli Masorti, right, is what's growing a lot in American Judaism. Why? Because we're realigning against the Protestant concept of religion and spirituality. When you read the Pittsburgh Platform, which is the original platform reform Judaism in the United States, named it, like established itself, right? It speaks in very Protestant terms about what is religion and spirituality, right?
Yeah.
And I remember we were reading from the Wikipedia um, the exact text, and somebody said, "So this is a translation from from the Hebrew, right?" I'm like, "No, no, no. This isn't a translation. They wrote it in English." And why did they think it was a translation? Because in the 1860s, it talks about the God idea. Like it literally says God idea, right? This conceptualizing of spirituality, right? And so with secular, especially, I mean, in the United States, secular people, secular Jews, but also even in Israel, the Chilonim, not so much the Masorti, right? They think of spirituality and religion in Protestant terms.
And again, what do you mean in Protestant terms of like just being a concept
of thoughts of what you think about intellectually, not necessarily how you behave and what you do in real
right.
in your life.
I mean, part of that problem, it's an additional problem, but it's related, obviously, which is the difference between at least how you describe them, the Masorti and Chiloni, and I can attest to this, is that there is a very large gap between what people know. Like to know even that there is a thing called Shulchan Aruch, Mishnah Brura, to know even the paragraph of the Shema beyond the two first sentences.
Yeah.
Not and not in the least just knowing the commentary on that,
right,
or the one level above that is not something that you would necessarily encounter.
You're right.
So you have a very large gap of knowledge that is very that makes things very hard to talk to people, because it's kind of like the on ramping, the discussion that we're talking about here. Like how do you you need to get to a point where you have enough shared knowledge, so that you can have a fruitful conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Weiter. והכת השלישית.
והכת השלישית, והם חי השם,
by the living God,
right, מעטים עד מאוד, עד שאין ראוי לקרותם כת, אלא כמו שיאמר לשמש מין, ורק היא יחידה, והם אותם בני אדם שנתברר אצלם גדולת החכמים, זיכרונם לברכה, וטוב שכלם, ממה שנמצא בכלל דבריהם מורים על עניינים אמיתיים, למאוד, ואף על פי שהם מעטים, הם מפוזרים במקומות מחבוריהם, הם מורים על שלמותם, וכי הם השיגו האמת, ושנתברר גם כן אצלם מניעות הנמצא, ומציאות המחויב להימצא, וידעו כי הם עליו השלום,
the חכמים,
כי הם עליו השלום, עליהם השלום, אינם מדברים התולים, ונתאמת להם שדבריהם יש לו נגלה ונסתר, וכי הם בכל מה שאומרים מן הדברים הנמנעים, דיברו בהם בדרך חידה ומשל, כי הוא זה דרך החכמים הגדולים, ולפיכך פתח ספרו הגדול החכמים, ואמר להבין משל ומליצה, דברי חכמים וחידותם ידוע, וידוע הוא אצל בעל הלשון, כי חידה הוא הדבר שהמכוון בו בנסתר, לא בנגלה ממנו, וכמו שאמר החודה, נא לכם חידה וכו'. אחודה לכם חידה וכו'. לפי שדברי החכמים, כולם בדברים העליונים שהם התכלית, אמנם הם חידה ומשל, ואיך נאשימם על שמחברים החרמה על דרך משל, ומדמים אותם בדברים הפחותים ההמוניים, ואנו רואים החכם מכל האדם עשה זה ברוח הקודש, רוצה לומר שלמה במשלי ושיר השירים, ובמקצת קהלת, ואיך יקשה עלינו לסבור פירוש על דבריהם ולהוציא מפשטם, כדי שיאות לשכל ויסכים עם האמת, ועם היותם כתבי הקודש, והם בעצמם סוברים בפסוקי המקרא ומוציאים אותם מפשוטם, ומשימים אותם משל, והוא האמת כמו שאנו מוציאים שאמרו בברכות. ופירוש פסוק הוא הכה את שני אריאל מואב, שהוא כולו משל, וכן מה שנאמר, והוא ירד והכה את הארי בתוך הבור, משל, וכן מה שנאמר, מי ישקני מים מבור בית לחם. בית כף, what is that? בבא קמא, ושאר הסיפור כולו משל, וכן סיפור איוב בכללו, אמרו מקצתם משל, היה, בבא בתרא, maybe.
In Baba Batra it says Sefer Eov is כולו משל.
A fable, parable.
Right.
ולא פירש לאיזה דבר הוא שם זה המשל, וכן מתי יחזקאל, אמרו קצתם משל, היה ורבים כאלה. ואם אתה מעיין באחד שתי הכתות הראשונות, לא תשגיח בדבריי, ולא בשום דבר מזה העניין, לפי שלא יהיה נאות לך שום דבר ממנו, אבל יזיקך ותסניעהו, ואיך יעטו המאכלים הקלים המעטים מכמותם הישרים באיכותם, לאדם שהרגיל במאכלים הרעים, אבל באמת הם מזיקים לו, והוא שונא אותם. הלא ידעת מה אמרו האנשים שהיו רגילים לאכול בצלים ושומים, והדגים ונפשנו קצר וכו'. We'll lost a little bit here, but we'll see.
Okay, so he says for the other people, when you say to somebody the book of Job is a mashal,
right,
which beferush, at least some of the chachamim in the Talmud say, right? There are people who are so filled up in the junk food of the first two that they hear something like that and they're incensed and they think it's horrible. Like, how could you say such a thing? You're a kofar or you're whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue. ואם אתה מן הכת השלישית, שתראה דבר מדבריהם שהדעת מרחיק אותו, תעמוד ותתבונן בו, ודע שהוא חידה, ומשל, ותשכב השוק הלב, ותירוד הרעיון בחברו ובסברתו, ותחשוב למצא כוונת השכל ואמונת היושר, כמו שנאמר, למצוא דברי חפץ, וכתוב יושר דברי אמת. ואז תסתכל בספרי זה, ויועיל לך בעזרת השם.
So you should try to understand, right? Okay, some things are obviously mashal, or some, like either we don't understand them or we don't understand them well, or they're right. It's not that everything in the Torah is a mashal or nothing is a mashal, right? You have to have a certain amount of intellectual humility to be able to even understand, hey, I am looking at words of wisdom from the ages, and I have a limited capacity to understand, and I will understand as much as I can, and what I can't understand, I don't understand. But that doesn't mean, chas v'shalom, that the Chachmenu Zal were idiots.
Right, so he's saying this
don't be a fundamentalist. Don't be Sam Harris. Be more like Jordan Peterson.
Right, but what he's saying here in terms of the third group, he's saying these are the people that think what you just did. This is their position, right? Their position is that they hear all these that somebody says that Job is a fable in the Talmud, and they're like immediately incensed and they can't take it, or like because they're so filled up with all the other positions that it seemed to them so extreme, or that there have been.
Well, that's either first or second, right? So he gives you three groups.
So what's the third group?
Okay, the first group is the fundamentalists who understand things to be completely straightforward, as if they and as if everything in the entire Bible, and certainly everything in the Talmud, is literal.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, what can you do? This is the best that they can understand. Then there's the Sam Harrises of the world, who are worse than the fundamentalists, right? They don't understand. They also understand everything in the Bible and the Talmud to be literal, but because they think they're so much smarter, they're like, these people were all idiots.
Okay, right.
Then there's the third category, and this is few. They're the people who understand that there are things which are taught, which are not, which are a mashal, which are allegories and trying to get at deeper truths. And they understand that sometimes we don't understand them, and sometimes, right, it's not clear what the mashal is, and sometimes we do understand them, and sometimes we think we understand them and we don't, right? This is the right way of looking forward to it. But when you say these things to somebody from the first two, they scoff and they get mad, and they're like, no, you're either a heretic, or you're like all the answers that you can get. Who's that guy? Ken Ham, right?
Ken Ham.
Yeah, I think that's who his name is. There's a famous like Christian fundamentalist, 7 days, right? 7-day creationist, like the biblical inerrantists who are like, no, if you believe any of this stuff isn't exactly literal 100%, you're some kind of a heretic. That's from the first thing.
Right.
Then there's people like Sam Harris, right? He's from the second type. And he's like, No, what I understand is right. And anything that doesn't sound like what I understand is bullshit. And
Mhm.
then there are people like Jordan Peterson who are like, no, this is really deep, important stuff. And I'm going to try to understand it as best that I can. Right? And maybe I don't get it completely. And maybe, right? But this that doesn't mean that somehow I like there's no world in which something like the story of Cain and Abel is worthless.
Mhm.
And that you as an individual human being is able to completely discount it, right? When somebody says, you know what, Mona Lisa, not a great painting, that doesn't reflect on the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
It reflects on this person, right? Because millions and billions of people recognize it as being something extraordinary, right? So there's a, what's his name called it, a termite. Peterson called it a termite gnawing on a temple, stone temple, right? Like there are times when you're just explaining your own foolishness.
Mhm.
And that's honestly the case when you look at something. Certainly when you get to the stories of Genesis, right?
Mhm.
Like, what kind of a chutzpaniak, what kind of a pisher are you? Right? To come and tell me the story of Cain and Abel, yeah, I'll write a better story.
Right. Not that important.
Not that important. Like, who needs it?
Nobody reads it today.
Bronze Age. What does Sam Harris call it? Bronze Age wisdom. And he makes it sound like that's a bad thing.
Mhm.
Not the fact that it's something that's 3,000 years old.
Right. Should we finish this or?
Yeah, so I believe this is the part where we stopped last time.
I don't know how it develops, so it might be a good place to stop.
This is probably a good place to stop. This is where he starts. Says Va'ata achel ledaber b'ma shekavanati lo. Right? This is where he starts actually naming the 13 principles of faith. Like all of that was kind of a preamble. So yeah, we can go back to Tanya, and and I highly recommend reading the rest of this by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very interesting.
Very
Yeah,
interesting.
very interesting to yeah to put
Very important Tanya Shir.
this yeah with a dash of Rama.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah.
So
I
should
mean,
we try to do some of this? How?
yeah. Let's try to finish the rest of this. I mean, how much more time do we have? 20 minutes.
20 minutes, yeah.
We only got a little bit, didn't we?
Yeah, we didn't get much.
We did not get much. Um, hmm.
Yeah.
Let's see how far we get in this. I'll try to. I don't know how. Is it pretty long? It's not that long. It's pretty short. Let me see if I can
Okay.
get through it. Okay. So we were talking about how it's Yichud Ilah and Yichud Tata, right? So Perikal. וידעת היום והשבת אל לבביך כי השם הוא האלוקים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד, like it says in Deuteronomy. Where is this from? Deuteronomy 4:39. You should know this day and set it upon your heart that God is the Lord in the heavens above and upon the earth below. There is none other. Ein od. וצריך להבין וכי תעלה על דעתך שיש אלוקים נשרה במים מתחת לארץ, right? So it says on the earth below, like, what is this idea? Why is it saying, right? B'shamayim mima'al, fine. V'al ha'aretz mitachat ein od, what's it saying?
Right.
V'tzarich la'azhir kol kach v'hashavota el levavecha. This is something that you should set upon your heart. Hinei kativ le'olam Hashem davarcha nitzav b'shamayim. Right? So we have this verse from Psalms. Forever, O God, your word stands firm in the heavens. Upirash Baal Shem Tov Zechron al Bracha. Baal Shem Tov explains Ki Devarcha She'amarta Yehi Rekia Betoch Hamayim. Right? So this fact that God spoke and made the world be, these words are the things that still cause there to be a heaven above. Tevot ve'otiot elu hen nitzavot ve'omdot le'olam betoch rekia hashamayim. Right? These words, when God said these things, these are forever there. Umelubashot betoch kol harekiim le'olam lahachoyotam. Right? They bring all of everything into being from yesh ma'ayin ex nihilo, right? Something from nothing, at every moment. Kidichtiv udavar Elokeinu yakum la'olam. As it is written, and the word of our Lord shall stand firm forever. Udavarav chayim v'kayimim la'ad. And his words live and stand firm forever. Ki'ilu hayu ha'otiyot mistalkot kerega chas v'shalom v'chozrot lemakoram. Right? That if these utterances of God were to somehow cease to be, then everything would also similarly cease to be. Hayu kol hashamayim ayin va'efes mamish v'hayu kelo hayu klal. It wouldn't merely be that they would cease to exist. It would be as if they had never existed. It would be completely as if they had never come into existence. Why? Because true existence, is that which is completely eternal. Mm-hmm. And something which ceases to exist is hevel. It's nothing. It's dissipating. V'chen b'chol habruyim sheb'chol ha'olamot elyonim v'tachtonim v'afilu eretz halezu hagashmit u'bechinat domem mamash. Even the most material and inanimate object, similarly, ilu hayu mistalkot mimena kerega chas v'shalom ha'otiot ma'asara ma'amarot shebahem nivret ha'aretz B'sheshet yamei ha'aret bereshit hayta chozeret la'ayin ve'efes mamash. Right? Everything would cease to exist and would be as if it were not. Kamo lifnei sheshet yamei bereshit mamash. Right? Before creation completely. V'zehu shamru amar harizal. This is what Rabbi Isaac Luria of blessed memory said. Shegam bedomem mamash. כמו אבנים ואפר ומים, יש בחינת נפש וחיות רוחנית. That there's still a soul and spiritual life force in everything, even those things like stones, which are completely inanimate. דהיינו, בבחינת התלבשות אותיות הדיבור, מעשרה מאמרות המחיות ומהוות את הדומם, להיות יש מאין ואפס שלפני ששת ימי בראשית. In order for things to be enabling them to be something where there was absolutely nothing before God created the heavens and the earth. Va'af shelo huzkar shem even b'asara mamarot shebatorah. Right? God didn't say the actual word, let there be stone.
Mhm.
Right? אף על פי כן נמשך חיות לאבן על ידי צירופים וחילופי אותיות המתגלגלות ברש למד א' 231 שערים פנים ואחור כמו שכתוב בספר יצירה. ספר יצירה explains the various ways of חילופים חילופי אותיות, the ways that letters can be transposed, and from the things that God said, eventually it came all the way down that there would be even a particular stone. Ad shemistalshelet shemistalshel masara mamarot v'nimshach mehem tziruf shem even, right, to the point of the stone. V'hu chayuto shel ha'even. And that is the spiritual reality which causes the material stone to still exist.
So,
yeah.
Let me ask you something. This might throw us off a little bit, but let me just throw this out there. Is it how? What do you think if I said that about the life force that he's talking about here being the purpose of a thing, equated with the purpose of a thing?
So Sam Titteman, my good friend of the Unitarian, Sam Titteman from the Transfigure channel, likes to talk about how we don't talk about the various causes that was it Aristotle? I think it was Aristotle who talks about the 4 different types of causes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not very good at naming all of the various causes, but here, why don't I 4 causes Aristotle. So there's the material cause, the final cause, the efficient cause, and where's the 4th one? Oh, come on. Stop it.
It just give you 3 causes and then kind of left it at that.
Yeah. The material cause, or that which is given in reply to the question, what is it made out of? The formal cause, or that which is given in reply to the question, what is it? The efficient cause, and that's what we usually mean when we say cause, that which is given in reply to a question, where does change or motion come from?
Mm-hmm.
And the final cause is that which is given in reply to the question, what is its good? And so we tend to only talk about the efficient cause when the fact is probably the most important cause is the final cause. And I think in this little corner, there's been various attempts to make final cause great again. Like people have actually been making jokes about making final cause great again.
Interesting, because reading the Ramchal, it seems like he's talking about, like, that's when he puts things in terms of what is why are we here, and why did God create the world? It really kind of focuses on the final cause, the purpose.
Yeah, and telos. I mean, that's another thing a lot of people in this low corner talk about a lot.
Sure,
it's telos. And in a very real sense, I mean, yes, telos definitely matters. Why does anything exist, right? It exists because God had a purpose for it. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Did I answer whatever your question was?
Yeah.
I hope so. Okay. So where were we?
וכן בכל הנבראים, I think.
וכן בכל הנבראים שבעולם השמות שנקראים בהם בלשון הקודש הן אותיות הדיבור המשתלשלות Mimadriga lemadriga ma'asara ma'amarot shabatorah. Right? And this was another discussion we were having on the Discord. Yes, the spiritual language alphabet in which the world is made is in fact Hebrew. Al yedei chilufim utmurot haotiyot beresh lamed aleph sha'arim ad shemagia magiot umitlabshot beoto nivra lachayoto. Right? So that those permutations in the Hebrew language of the original speech with which God created the world is what gives the spiritual vivifying force which allows anything to exist. לפי שאין פרטי הנבראים יכולים לקבל חיותם מעשרה מאמרות עצמם שבתורה. Because they have gone so far from where they through Seder Hishtalshalut that it cannot be a direct revelation through the 10 Mamarot with which the God created the world. שהחיות הנמשך מהם עצמם גדול מאוד מבחינת הנבראים פרטיים ואין כוח בהם לקבל החיות אלא על ידי שיורד החיות ומשתלשל ממדרגה למדרגה פחותה ממנה על ידי חילופים ותמורות האותיות. Right? The only way that this pure and infinite light can come down to individual creations is through the various spiritual degradations from degree to degree through substitutions and transpositions. The gematriot shehen cheshbon haodiot, or the numerical values, ad sheyuchal lehitzamtzem velehitlabesh ולהתהוות ממנה נברא פרטי, until some actual hypostasis of the ideal can come to exist. וזה שמו אשר יקראו לו בלשון הקודש, and that is the Hebrew name of it, הוא כלי לחיות המצומצם באותיות שם זה. Right? That is this a vessel of to give its life force. שנשתלשל מעשרה מאמרות שבתורה שיש בהם כוח וחיות לברוא יש מאין ולהחיותו לעולם. Right? And it is the 10 utterances that are in the Torah which have this capacity to create ex nihilo. The oraita v'kutshabrichu kula chad, that ultimately God and the Torah are one.
Yeah, so I guess it would be interesting to see how he goes into this, the question that we started with, the how to be, and both the how to be both in how to be in both levels. I'm trying to use the word to be because like to know, or like how to exist in both levels, right? Like the
Ani Hashem Elokechem.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's when it comes down to it. If you haven't listened to the discussion that Yosef had with PVK, it's an oldie but goodie.
Right.
The fact is that this is an eternal and important. One of the things when I first started listening to PBK was when he was talking about God 1 and God 2, right? Mm-hmm. It was very clear that he was talking about similar ideas. He was trying to formulate similar ideas to this idea of the difference between Shem Havaya and Shem Elokut.
Right.
And for me, it was very fascinating that he was trying to rediscover this, and unlike most Trinitarians, wasn't trying to bring up God number three and like try to wedge Christian theology into it. Um, it was it's actually there is a spiritual reality to this idea of the Arenic versus agentic, of the ideal versus the hypostatic, right?
Mhm.
And how these two interact appears to be, and I mean, Yechezkel Kaufman apparently, I mean, he's academically given the given credit for saying that this is the innovation of Jewish monotheism. Is this I am the Lord your God, Ani Havaya Lokechem, and really, it doesn't translate out of the Hebrew. It, I mean, when it comes down to it, when Yosef was talking to PVK, he was like, "Well, I just have to look at the text and see which, if it talks about Shem Havaya, or it talks about Shem Elohim, or it talks about a different one, or it says Ani Havaya Lokechem, right?" And that's, I mean, first of all, it's amazing, but B, it really is the, you could say in a very real sense, it is the nekuda. It is, I mean, what are the first three words of the Aseret HaDibrot? Anochi Hashem Elokechem Asher Hotzeticha. Anochi. Let me find the word Aseret HaDibrot. 10 utterances. Where are they? Deuteronomy. Where's the 10 commandments? Now I feel stupid.
Well, you got the first three words, that's for sure.
What? Do I? I thought I knew them, but now
Anochi, yeah.
The first word is definitely Anochi.
Anochi Hashem
Is it Elokechem or
Elokecha.
Elokecha? Yeah, that's what. Let me see. Where were we? 20.
Wait, let's confirm this.
That's what I was doing. 20. Yeah, Elokecha, right? Asher hotzaticha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeit avadim. I do usually remember that verse a little bit better than I did right there. But Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher hotzaticha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeit avadim, right? And this idea Anochi Hashem Elokecha, like, it is those three words, which in a very real sense cannot be translated to English, may be the most important words in the Hebrew Bible, and they get like, "I am the Lord your God" gets repeated over and over again, and people in England, like, they read it in English and they're like, "What's it saying?" And it's like, not the same thing it says when I read it.
Yeah.
So there you go. And you were learning Hebrew as a baby. How dare you? It's chutzpah and cherpa that a baby in his diapers gets to learn Hebrew.
It's and a beautiful thing at the same time.
It is. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Cool. Well, this was a good lesson.
And now you have homework.
Now I have homework.
You have homework. Yeah. I'm going to end the stream.
Thank you.